Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you for having us here. My name is Carlota Moraes. This is my colleague Nadia. We're from the United Nations University, and we're very happy to be here presenting our ideas on how to realize digital self-determination and participation in Europe. Individuals face difficulties navigating the digital ecosystem, where they're confronted with problems such as technological opacity and questions regarding their data. As new technologies become more pervasive and are used to address societal challenges, we feel that individuals should be able to have the opportunity to co-design and co-create that change. To achieve self-determination and participation, we believe political initiatives should be centered on the rights, agency, knowledge and skills of the individual and anchored on European values. So, what is digital self-determination? Self-determination implies that individuals should be able to steer the digital fate of the community. And in order to do that, they need to have a certain degree of control over technologies, including the ability to verify their trustworthiness and understand how to operate them. We see open source technologies as a key tool to achieve these goals, as its founding philosophy guarantees individuals the same rights the EU seeks to protect. Having the source code available for everyone to use, access, develop, and distribute contributes to technological transparency, which is critical for individuals to be involved, build trust on technology, and understand its inner workings.
So during the lockdown, open source platforms allowed students to continue education, for citizens to be informed and have access to information, but also for open source communities to develop platforms to manage things like vaccines. So this conveys that people are using open source to create their own solutions. And they are contributing to existing solutions, and they are trying to use their skill sets to further develop. So the question that is now laying before policymakers is that whether they want to support individuals to contribute to the system that exists, or will they realize that individuals who are unable to participate in this system that we have now are going to create alternative solutions. Think of things like self-sovereign identity. Think of things like cryptocurrency. Therefore, we would like to propose political strategies that focus on developing a skills-based democracy. We are already taking steps in education to build the skills that our society needs through the EU Digital Education Action Plan. But then these skills should then empower citizens to participate in processes that don't require specific content knowledge or experience or background. Perhaps through projects like public coding consultations or hackathons. Citizens can then actively use their skill set to respond to challenges. But these new processes should go beyond being just projects that are being introduced. We need to transform the governance structure in which there is systematically access to this participation form from a skills-based angle. So with a skills-based approach, we can re-include citizens who are not thinkers, but they're doers. People who have the capacity on a local, specific, or technical level, and with using open source, we will give them the transparency and trust that citizens are now seeking and challenging governance with. So we would love to talk to you more about your ideas and also with the wider audience over the next 2 days. And please don't hesitate to ask us any questions. Thank you so much for listening.
I'll start the timer for 10 minutes.
Okay, perfect.
Great.
I'll just quickly start with the first question. I love the idea of the skill-based society. The first question that springs to my mind is, what happens with the citizens that don't have these skills? Are they left behind? How do you make sure that everyone is included?
So with the EU Digital Education Action Plan, there is a form of idea of how we need to move forward to provide access to people to information regarding media literacy, AI literacy, etc. So we're hoping that that will always provide a fundament. But just because we see in systems now that people who don't have expertise are already now being excluded. This is an additional form of finding ways to re-include participants. It's a step-by-step basis in which we can try to see where we can use the skill sets or the strengths of every individual to contribute to the society that they want to see. So previously it was about our expertise, our knowledge, about our social interactions. And now what the proposal that we're making, it's focused on those who are maybe more introverted or who are more focused on the puzzles and the logic behind it. So it's not a way to say we're providing access for all, but we're trying to include more and more people to provide different systems and manners to be part of the consultation processes.
Okay.
Revenge of the nerds.
Yes.
So perhaps a quick follow-up question. If we talk about skills at the EU level, we know, for example, French have a certain advantage at mathematics, while Germans perhaps in engineering. Is there any idea to have everybody should have the same skills across Europe? Or is it an idea you should establish certain skill focuses in different countries? Or what is the concept behind the skill establishment?
I think that's a great question that I don't, it's very different because every country has their different approaches and their different strengths, and I do feel that that's a very cop-out answer. But there have been different ways for people to kind of align these type of systems. If we think about the Council of Europe initiatives to introduce the A1, A2, B1 system for languages, but also for the computer license, the European Computer Driver's License, that tries to provide media literacy access on a more equal level, that everybody understands the level that we're introducing of knowledge regarding Microsoft Office skills, how to access the internet. And also media literacy programs increasingly are trying to standardize the way that we are introducing information regarding information literacy. But also now we're talking about AI literacy. There are programs that are starting to create nationwide things. What we would see is that we do realize that you have programming skills, which takes a very different way of thinking. It's not, people say it's like learning a language. You have to learn, think about it in a different structure and different ways. It has a different flow. It has a different theme of a manner of thinking. And I tried doing coding. I'm good with languages, but I'm not good with coding. And I think that focusing on skills-based, because you have the different skills, every individual can focus on things that they're great in. If you're great in art, your skill could be communication. If you're great in coding, your skill could be coding.
Six more minutes.
6 more minutes. Okay.
More questions.
I try to conceptualize it a little bit, and I think about how do you make sure that you don't leave anybody behind. So it has a tendency to go and, skills become social points, and then to exaggerate a little bit. And at one point of time, maybe people will be left behind, will be kept out of the system. How do you make sure that this doesn't happen?
The fear of being left behind, of course, is most notable to those who don't want to have anything to do with the internet, who are not, want to be associated with the internet at all, who choose to live an offline life. And for myself, for example, I don't have most of social media platforms, and I know that there's an entire community that is there organizing reunions that I'm not going to because I didn't know that they existed. And therefore you then are excluded. Just because we are focusing on the skills-based doesn't mean necessarily that they can't get involved in other different ways. And this is why we wanted to focus on kind of an open source or a local manner that we are reaching out to people also in their local communities. The proposals that we made were looking at things like, if you know that the Have Your Say platform on the European Union website, you as an individual can submit your consultations on any directive that is up for consultation. If you didn't know that that website existed, I don't know how many of you knew that this website existed, that you could submit something regarding the NIS directive, for example, or previously about GDPR, then you would never interact with it. So first we need to find the people who do have the capacity and who do want to say something and get them involved. Focusing then also on the skills, that we do have the skills out there, and we talked about talent before. Let's use that talent that we are creating from a very early age on and show them that their talent is appreciated here, whether or not they then stay with companies, etc. But show them that we are interested, we're keeping an eye out. And also we see with, for example, hackathons are being used a lot by private sector to recruit people. These kind of challenges to bring people in will also encourage other people when they see my friend contributed to something that changed the way that Europe is developing or trying to change. or if they participated in a hackathon that then gets implemented and they turn up and see how it's being done. So for example, one of the hackathons that's being done in the Netherlands is in Cybersecurity Week in October. Every year they do a hackathon for good, and the ministry actually challenges them with a question that they then answer. For example, finding salinity in water or drone regulations, and that's then done by the people, by young people and groups and communities to come together to solve this. And when they do solve it, people are so excited about it, and they share, oh, I did something with my skill, maybe this is something that you could do too. And people also then feel empowered to start doing these things. So it's also setting a standard that allows other people to see what good your skills can do for the community.
Is there more time?
Yes, we have.
Very brief question. Love your take on creativity, but where at TUM we think about what else it takes apart from technical skills to enhance that in people. And quick observation, for example, on civic tech and social entrepreneurship, they have great ideas, also the technical skills, but entrepreneurial skills and these things kind of lack. So what do you think is important to, from a social technical point, to include, and where do you have to, in a way, limit that, because you cannot teach them everything? So what else than technical skills would you include in such an education?
I think that every solution comes from both expertise, but also goes towards a community. So there are different steps and different skills come in the process of this. So when we do have a product, for example, that product at some point needs to be checked for safety. At some point that product needs to be, has to have a beautiful design so that it's appealing to the customer, and then it also needs to go into the community. It needs to be understood and loved and taken care of. And that's also the things that we need to see with these skills. So the skills is not just coding and the technical aspect of this. It also includes how we're going to look at it. So for example, if we look at design, we think, oh, well, if it's usable, then it's great. But why do people love certain products to unpack more than other products? So if I'm thinking of buying any form of cable, I'm always so annoyed that the plastic wrapping, you always need scissors, and then it doesn't cut right, and you have to kind of shake it out. Those are things that you then wouldn't want to kind of engage with. And it's the same with programs. It's the same with trying to engage with new technologies. So then you have people who then look at the creativity of the beauty of the product or the design of the product to, so the technical skills are there, but how can we make it more elegant or more approachable or easier to use? And you also have communications then that it needs to be something that gets to the people and how it is communicated and how it is received and also how it is loved. Because when we talk about things like the internet, we love the internet or we love a product, and we talk about it all the time. And this kind of form of skills, I think, are just as important as technology. And the thing is we need to then come together to bring that round, and using then open source solutions, using these public consultations, bringing all these different skill sets together that's more transparent, gives people an understanding that, oh, here is my product, this is the idea that I have, and these are people who are thinking about this from a very different angle or from this particular creative idea or this form of beauty, that maybe even if our project doesn't get accepted or our consultation goes nowhere, even then we can then collaborate. Maybe we can create something else that's beautiful. So you also create kind of that communication with that open transparency. At least that's what we're hoping for.
Thank you so much.